Alright, close enough. I'm early by a minute. Actually, I kind of want to rock Fumo tonight. How are we all doing? I'm a bit more on the tired side tonight, if I'm to be honest. We're not like neck deep in freaking dying heat, but past couple days have been a little warmer. Which I don't know. It's not even exclusively that, I guess. Today was meant to be D&D day, so I woke up notably earlier. And then we didn't have D&D because Nami had an allergic reaction and had to be taken to the ER. So that was definitely an offset on our plans, to put it lightly. I have noticed a bit that how do I put this? I mean, it's not even noticed. It's been outright announced that Twitch has recently taken down a bunch of bots. Which is actually kind of nice, because that means that I mean, it's a double-edged sword to a certain degree, due to the way that they're doing it. It's good, because I know that numbers are actually, like, actually there, and not just freaking the passing, hey, do you want free viewers bots, you know? That Sari thankfully takes care of on its own, so they don't even get to say their bullshit anymore. But rather than that, there's actually, you know, people there. But it does mean that people are debating if it's going to stay at all. But there are a few growing pains related to it, right? People think that they're using a learning algorithm in order, oh, excuse me, in order to keep track and like figure out if they're bots or if they're actual viewers. Which does mean that the whole lurkers are not being counted thing is true. Like, confirmed true currently. Some people think that they're not going to keep doing, like, they're not going to keep their algorithm bot thing going for however long, for, like, past the month even. Some people think that they're going to just eat shit as a result of, you know, certain people that either intentionally or unintentionally, we're getting botted. Not wanting to stream anymore because they suddenly went up to freaking like 30k CCV, and now their ego can't take that number is less than half because of the bots being taken down. I think it's hilarious. As someone who's not like massive, but as like my little community, I think it's funny. And I think that it's another opportunity. It's another one of those opportunities like, all kinds of shit that goes on throughout the year, which I'm not going to go and talk about. I'm not even going to list off the 80 fucking dramas that have happened this year. But, you know, pick your favorite, stuff like that. And then, people sort of spreading out from there. Even if they do, like, keep together certain ones of them, like, for their favorite streamer that may have been, like, disgraced or whatever. They still, you know, will fan out because they need some entertainment while they're waiting. And, you know, the people that are so, how do I put it? So numbers focused. That, like, they refuse to stream because they're missing, like, they're missing the bots that they weren't making anything off of anyway, whatever. They only see the number as half or whatever freaking gap they have. That's all they see. But their, like, actual fan base, where they're gonna stick and they're gonna, like, wait for the going live notification, they will look around a bit more, rather than having their favorite, like, 12-hour streamer. And, like, their fan base has no reason to, aside from, like, getting bored, has no reason to, like, just abandon them. They're not, like, a disgraced streamer or anything. Because in most cases, they're not botting themselves. They, in a lot of cases, have, you know, parts of their fan base that decide that they're going to just throw, like, 500 freaking bots at them or something like that. But while they're waiting, like, their fan base is going to, like, fill that gap a bit. And, like, some people will wind up getting some upticks as a result of that. It's questionable as to if they will keep the upticks to a certain degree, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, I guess they're not even getting upticks. They're getting upticks in real viewers, but they're not getting upticks, like, overall, because it's kind of hard to, freely grab a hold of like the comparison of like 500, I guess, is a number that frequently gets brought up. It's kind of hard to freeform keep 500 as opposed to like a bot. But like say 500 bots get bonked and then like 60 or so people that are exploring around because their favorite streamer is taking a convenient break. You know, there's something there. So the number won't uptick, but like their actual viewer base will, I guess is the best way to put it. And I don't know. I don't know enough about like statistics or anything to know if they will retain once like Kai being a big one, once he comes back from his break. Because apparently he hasn't streamed... He streamed a single time since the bot thing, like, happened. But, like, I don't know if, like, that 60 or whatever number you want to use as, like, people that may have latched onto someone else while waiting. I don't know if they'll stick around, because not everyone multi-stream drifts. I multi-stream drift like hell. I time travel with my multi-stream drifting. I will jump between, like, 5 to 6 streams. Depending on who's live, while not streaming. I'll normally have whoever I raid into. I'll have... say we go for who I have open before a stream. I'll have, like, Shino. I'll have... Yuku, I'll have Narp, I'll have Joel, depending on what he's doing, Juniper if she goes live before I start, you know, stuff like that. Let me see here. Is there anyone else that, like... I don't even know if looking at this is exactly helpful right now, because of the number of people that are doing subathons right now. So, like, where I do have Mega open when I'm not streaming currently, she's in the middle of a subathon. Normally, she wouldn't be live until after I go live, so I'd catch her after I end, right? And then, like, after stream, I'll have whoever I raid, Fleshy or Egg, who are normally still going. Dia when she goes live, Jaruna when she goes live, other Eggplant when she goes live. Those are normally around the 5 to 6 a.m. region for my time for those three. You know, I multi-stream Drift. Boysen's another one, but she's also in that same region of, 5 to 6 a.m. Mega with 2 A's rather than Megalodon. Zephora, another one that I tend to watch. A lot of art tubers. Merp. I don't know if I said Merp already. But yeah. Give me one moment. I just got into one moment. Thank you, Sari. Uh... Ba 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 ba. Apologies for this. I am doing a little bit of ba 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 ba. Alright. Either way. Sorry about that. Was a little sidetrack on that. What were we... son of a bitch. Oh, right. Talking about the bot problem on Twitch. But, yeah, I don't know if... I don't know if Twitch will keep up with it. And Twitch's bot problem isn't even, like, the worst out of the big trio at this point. If we count, like, Kick as big enough, which it's taken a decent market share at this point. I think that we can consider it as... we can consider it as a competitor. But I have by far seen more bots from Kick than either of the other. I think that YouTube does the best as far as, like, trying to mitigate the bot problem. I'm not the biggest fan of the engaged viewer change. But I haven't really seen a whole lot of changes at face value for it. Maybe the more recent videos have actually gotten more in the due to the engaged viewer the engaged viewer change. Maybe that's why, you know. Maybe that's why the views aren't higher than that they're perceived to be. I, personally, just think that it's, you know, that they haven't performed as well. I do think that I wish that, my personal opinion, I wish that the engaged viewer change actually had happened earlier. Because the talking about the objective overview video, that idea that I tossed out, like, immediately, I don't think that it should be at 17,000 views. When, like, 90% of those views are, like, 2 seconds. And I don't even know, like, maybe they clicked on it because they saw one of the people involved on the thumbnail. Saw, hey, this is a VTuber, and then clicked off. I know that some people went, oh, you have a blue sky, you have blue sky in your, profile. Clearly, then... opinion disregarded, thinking that I was... I'm assuming that it's people that thought that I was going to, attack one of the people involved. Rather than what it actually was, which was talking about how it doesn't matter because people that go into those things don't give a shit what the actual answer is. They just they just hate person and want confirmation that yes, the hate person. I think I mentioned it outright, but royalty is here. Is that what his name is? Yeah, royalty is here. He's gone into a few, or at least one. I think it was the Taiga video. He went into that expecting to hate him, and then came out of it being like, oh, there was a lot of information that was not true that was just kind of freaking spread around. So, what do, you know? And I don't have that kind of time for like the deep dives that I feel would be respectful to the sensitivity of some of the topics in regards to it. And I especially don't think so because even the less inflammatory one of the Cinder video that I did a bit ago has had several people that didn't really look into it, that didn't actually watch the video, that like have commented like giving their opinions of, oh, Cinder should never come back, blah blah blah. It's like that's not the important part of the video. You can have your opinion on whether or not you think she should come back, but that's not the important part. The important part is the overarching topic that applies to more than just that. I just used it as a catalyst, which is kind of what I said in the response to the one thing, because the person, understandably, was a little upset that people don't tend to look at both sides of it, and they only go, hey, this is the person that was deemed wrong in this, and I personally agree with that. What she did was wrong, but that's not the important part. A lot of people take that and go, okay, this is the side that's doing all of the wrongdoing. There's people on both sides that are freaking crusading, and I'm pretty sure I said that in the video, but the important part was talking about, you know, the overall perception that it leads to, and it's something that works for like the entire industry, right? Like I said during it, there was an anecdote regarding someone that I used to work with, who was a PR person for our group. And there were certain points where there had to be some delicate matters that were taken care of, and it was definitely a little touch and go for them. And if we had people, even like 2 people, which is what this appears to be, is it's like, it's 2 people that are like the most vocal, probably maybe about a dozen that are like openly bad actors, which is a small amount when you've got like 900 or so people, assumedly. I don't know, let's see here. And I'm just gonna go off the following of the good example that I gave during the video. Assuming that everyone following them is not just hate following, 2,600. 2,700 if I round up. So, like, a dozen people out of that many is not indicative of the entire group, right? You can still shame the bad actors, and the bad actors still should be shamed, but it's not indicative of, like, everyone. It's less than 1%, I think. My math's right. But yeah, they were understandably a little upset that people, like, do that, but it was a thing that was fresh on the mind. Because I'd seen, like, 3 recurring names. 3 different times that week. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to make a video. And more people will hopefully see it, because it's talking about someone that everyone wants to freaking still dog on 4 months later. And I'll use this as a catalyst for, like, a more educational-oriented video. About an important facet of the overall industry, which is what I like to do for a lot of these things, right? Is I like to take what's a good example of something that I like to take instances that I have experienced, put them also into some hypotheticals alongside it, and then use it as, like, a more general thing that can hopefully influence a few, like, changes for the better, you know? Whether it be talking about people that should probably get a vibe check on people that they want to collab with before they just collab with everyone that'll shoot them a message. Or people that want to try and take advantage of their connections or flaunt their connections. To give, like, the 2 different examples that I've seen firsthand. An old boss and recent ex-friend. PR overall, I'm not like an experienced PR person, but, you know, I've talked with people that are PR people, and, you know, it gave me an opportunity to talk about it in this case. And I try to be objective when it comes to, like, bigger things. It's why, well, in that video in particular, I did also bring up the good actors. They were in passing, but I did bring them up as, like, hey, even they're saying, you're going too far, fuck ass. Probably don't fucking do this, especially because in a lot of regions, it's fucking illegal. But I don't know. Maybe I wasted my time freaking responding to that message. I don't know. I may never get a response. I may get freaking a response of, well, maybe you should have done X, Y, or Z, and who knows. And, you know, that's the problem when you're taking something from live and cutting it down and then tossing it out, right? Is sometimes you don't do everything perfectly. Because you go off of what you have at the time, and then either new information comes out, or you realize, hey, I didn't exactly word that properly, or or you just don't have, like, the amount of info that you probably should before you open your mouth. Which a lot of people wind up just ignoring when they're, like, live, but who knows, right? Like, I could talk shit about freaking 40k on something that I don't know. Like, I could go into deep lore about Eldar freaking right now saying, oh, X, Y, and Z meme is correct, blah, 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 and, you know, I don't know anything about Eldar. But that's a topic that doesn't really matter in the end, aside from to Eldar fans, because, you know, they're, at the end of the day, still 40k fans, and if you make fun of their favorite army, they're going to try and crucify you. Miles. But that's something that doesn't matter nearly as much as, like, talking about a genuinely serious topic. Which is what most of mine tend to be about whenever it's talking about something that I find is important. And, you know, it's... How do I put it? It's a bit harder to... or it's a bit worse if I, like... If I were to be on the opposite side of the falsetto conversation. Which I still believe wholeheartedly don't do falsetto if you're doing voice acting. It's fine for music, because it's less time that you're spending on it. There are plenty of examples of people that I know that have lost parts of their voice and range because they've used falsetto for voice acting things. That being said, like, that's obviously a lot more important. If I were to go and be like, oh yeah, do falsetto, it's a good way to freaking do voices for smaller or goblinoid type characters. Just freaking do it. Don't even care. Kobolds, goblins, all of them, do falsetto. Be sure to clench your throat as hard as you can in order to get the best falsetto you can. If I were to do that, then it's a little more important, and it's a bit of a problem if you just plain do everything. If you just say a bunch of wrong stuff, I guess. Spread the wrong information like that, and it's an actual problem. I still stand by what I said, though, about don't do fucking falsetto. It's fine for music. Don't do it for, like, genuine acting. Because you're doing it for, like, 1/10 of the time for music. I technically shouldn't even do the goblin voice for as long as I tend to do it normally because of the way that I freaking scrunch my throat in order to do it. But I guess it's better than when I originally discovered that goblin voice where I was also screaming it. Because that's also my old voice from when I was doing my first grouping of performances. Which, God. I met some interesting individuals via that. And I'm sure that 21-year-old Nasu had he had the confidence that modern Nasu does. Would have spent a not small amount of time off the main floor. With individuals that he ran into. Because they were very excitable and very excited about the situation. To put it one way, I suppose. But that was before I even started, like... I think it was before I started streaming... No. It was a little bit into streaming, but I didn't have the good internet because 2020 was my year of fighting for good internet. And then here we are 5 years later where I'm fighting for a good computer. But by 2021, I had the better internet. And then that's when I actually started properly streaming in order to get into exposure therapy for my social anxiety. Which is the main reason that I actually did, like, go harder into streaming at the advice of a therapist. Actually finishing things was, like, the primary reason, but a secondary reason was exposure therapy, right? Ad's about to start, so I will be, taking a quick break. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. I once again grabbed myself some zucchini. I think I'll make spaghetti tonight when I end stream. I do kind of wish that the internet space wasn't so volatile when it came to talking about some of these things. Because I do believe that there is more to be gathered from certain things. Topical song. There is more to be, you know, discussed in the circumstances than X bad, Y bad. And a lot of people refuse to, like, go beyond the face value of things like that. And then they'll get their camps, and then they'll just be like, we don't do anything else aside from throw. Throw our shit at the other side. And I do think that there are definitely some some points where there is no point due to the other side not wanting to actually have a dialogue. They just want to dig their heels in and then throw shit. Granted, I've talked plenty about, you know, those fights. It is fresh in the mind, though, because I did go searching into a certain group because I was saving art, and I was like, oh, this person and this person get art together a lot. I wonder if they're part of, like, a group of some sort, so I can just combine them together in a folder named after the group. They're not in the same overall agency, and as far as I can tell, they don't have, like, a smaller group. Like, I think Girls FC is probably the best example of that. I think that they're just, like, a Twitch team and a group of friends, right? I think Southside is the same way. Because, I think it's Koki? I think it's Koki, who is part of Southside and obviously 3 AM. Which I didn't know that Koki was part of Southside until, I found the Southside group on Blue Sky. Or Southside list, I should say. That was interesting. When was the last time Penny actually streamed? Now that I am thinking freshly on that. It's because she's like Clove. I don't remember the last time I saw her live. Off the top of my head. Speaking of which, I should put her in the, if she's on Blue Sky, I should put her in my fellow Art Chubas list. Three days ago, so I guess she hasn't been away for too terribly long. Oh right, she was doing Digimon the other day. But yeah, I was looking around and just to see if I could put them in a folder together. And I didn't find a way to do so. Because, I mean, I guess I should just openly state. Because Clove does not appear to be part of, like, any group in particular. Which does make it a bit difficult. Simply for the fact that I was kinda hoping to be able to put her in a category. Or in like a subfolder of sorts. Especially so that I could put, like, if she's in a collab art piece with someone, then I can just put them in the overarching folder. Like, if I... I mean, sometimes I don't even put it in the proper folder from what I should. I should make... I don't know. I don't want to freaking make certain folders like 8 deep is the problem. Because when it comes to like the HoloLive ones, there's generations that are crossed half the time, like collab pieces, so I don't know where to put them some of the time. Like if, like whenever Narissa's with Gigi or something. Granted, people like to joke about how Narissa's honorary justice or something like that. But it would be nice if people were, like, more open to having discussions and whatnot on certain things. Rather than just digging their heels in on certain things. Like, even just basal things, you know? Or, like, basic things. Not basal. Basal is something that's, like, at the root of everything. It would be also nice to be able to, like, have a little bit of a discussion, but a lot of basal things are admittedly very one side or the other. There is no, like, middle ground kind of deal. They do subdivide normally into things that, like, can be open for discussion, though. But I just wish that, you know... It especially doesn't help that, like, there is a not small number of, like, the recent dramas and whatnot. That stem from people not discussing before or anything, not willing to, like, have a discussion. And then they stop being friends, and then they freaking start talking shit, and then... Eventually it has to get to freaking docs or whatever. Documents. I don't know. Let me... grab... This can actually be deleted. I don't need to have that there now. Let me grab that Fallout iceberg that I started the other day. Oh, I can keep that going. I don't know if we'll go through this entire video. I've watched parts of this. I got through... I got about an hour into it already. I was at 40 minutes and then I freaking went to sleep. I'm not going to start in the middle of that because there is at least one part that I do want to talk about. Because it's sick as hell. Actually, there's a few parts in there that I do kind of want to talk about and do have my own thoughts on. But like... Oddly enough, this goddamn iceberg, which is basically just listing off basic explanations for the history of Fallout, is probably going to be more interesting than yesterday's video. I should, and if this goes to dog shit, I am going to take I am just going to call it and not freaking continue through it. I should have just called it partway through yesterday's video. Because, I'm going to be honest, it's... I enjoy Harvester, but I didn't really like the video. And... it really got super fucking preachy at the end. For no good reason. Look at this. Can't see it because I'm here. But very brief. There's analysis there. Three hours, 56 minutes. Brief. Fuck you. I really hate that shit. This one, at least, is a supercut. Means that there's a bunch of videos that went into this singular video. That at least makes sense. Considering it's nearly 4 hours, we're probably not going to get through it all. That would put me, if I don't stop to say anything, at 2 a.m. And I want to make food tonight. I want to make some spaghetti. I also want to work on some things. Either way, let's dig in.
Well, what about it, mister? What is this Fallout stuff?
The Fallout franchise is almost 30 years old, and it's been through a lot over
Which
those
is fucking insane. It also means that I'm fucking old. When did Fallout 1 come out? 97. Fallout 1's a year older than I am. We have an actual, like, day? October 10th.
Years. First owned by Interplay Entertainment and now Bethesda Studios, it's gone from a series that looks like this to looking like this. As a result, the games almost feel like they represent two different eras, old and new, modern and classic. So you can bet we're getting the classic Fallout iceberg. I'll be going off of this design by Educational Wave 786 and then wrapping up with some custom entries of my own, including ones you guys suggested. This video will be for everyone who either loves the older games from Interplay or wants to try getting into them. I hope you guys enjoy. This is the complete classic Fallout Iceberg series, and let's get right into it. In Fallout 1, it's actually possible to fail the main quest line in two different ways, getting a bad ending cutscene as a result. During the first stage of the main quest, the player, also known in the first game as the Vault Dweller, is tasked with finding a water chip for their home, Vault 13. The Vault's water purification system relies on a control chip to make drinking water, and the only one they had is now broken. So, the Vault Dweller gets sent on a mission to find a replacement chip out in the wasteland. Except, there's a catch. Unlike other RPGs, where you kinda have time to dilly-dally in the face of an apocalyptic crisis, Vault 13's crisis is the real deal. You only have 150 days to find a new water chip. If you take too long, you'll get 2 warnings that your people's water reserves are running low. Hit 150 days, and...
I do kind of like that about Fallout.
Everyone the Vault Dweller knows and loves.
And Fallout 2, I think, also does a similar thing. It doesn't give you, like, the hard cutoff, if I remember correctly, but it does also kind of, you know, give you incentive to continue along. Which I do kind of wish that some of the later ones actually gave. And by that I mean, like... I mean, here's the thing, right? Fallout 3 kind of sets up a story that implies that you should care about the time. Oddly enough, also related to water. Because the Enclave has their plan. And the Enclave implies that they're going to use Project Purity in order to freaking, you know, spread whatever, blah blah blah. I mean, Fallout 2 also kind of does. I don't remember if Fallout 2 really gave you any, like, hard time deadlines, though. Fucking hours, dude. I wouldn't even watch that in my free time.
Dying of dehydration is a bad enough ending, but it's not the only way to fail the game. During the second half of the main quest, it becomes your goal to wipe out the Master and his army of super mutants. They serve as a major threat against mankind and your vault, looking to convert humanity into mutants and bring about an enforced unity. And while there is a good ending where the Vault Dweller defeats the Master, there exists an ending where they don't. By talking to either the lieutenant or the master, one can choose to betray their vault, reveal its location, and join the mutant cause. This results in a cutscene considered one of the darkest bad endings in gaming history.
But it is sick as hell.
I'll let you judge for yourself.
Also, it's surprising as to how often people use this cutscene and the other cutscene that, like, relates to it. Given it's the bad ending, and I don't know. It definitely seems like one of those things that doesn't seem that hard to avoid. I mean, the answer is that, like, partially they're intentionally going for this. It's also just straight up a cutscene, so save game, do cutscene, load game. I want to know how they got in there, though. Like, the implication is explosives, but how? That's not a laser weapon. But this is where that cutscene is that I was wondering about the other day.
Special encounters are a unique type of random encounter that occur while traveling across the world map. Rather than exploring one big open world, the original Fallout games abstracted world travel and made it a matter of moving across a map between different destinations. But even this was still interesting, owing to the chance of random encounters and the memorable special encounters. They could involve anything, from finding a unique NPC to talk with, to stumbling upon the TARDIS from Doctor Who, a UFO with a working alien blaster, and a picture of Elvis, and much more. They were fun Easter eggs to find, and ironically enough, given their name, something that made the first games feel special.
I never ran into a single one of these the entire time. In either
Special
game.
weapons are a small number of unique weapons that can be found in either special encounters or by doing quests. These include the likes of the 9mm Mauser you can loot off Gizmo, and the Alien Blaster. In the original Fallout games, you could, let's say, prevent a teenage wasteland. Yeah, there's no dressing this up. You could kill kids. It definitely wasn't encouraged, as there was a reputation you could get for it in which NPCs suddenly hate the player.
I wish that they had kept the original version of the perk for that. If only because I think it went too far. For those that don't know, the original version of the child killer perk, or reputation, or whatever, had the vault boy kicking a pregnant vault lady in the belly. Or the Pip-Boy, or whatever you want to call it.
And it is worth mentioning that digital releases of Fallout 1 sold today don't have children in them. They're completely removed from the game, just like what happened with the UK release.
They are back in Fallout 2, ironically, and actually it's mentioned here in a minute anyway.
Fun fact about that. Europe wouldn't even sell Fallout if there were kids in it.
They wouldn't even sell the game if there were children in the game. We didn't have time to read all the quests. What we just did is we just deleted kids off the disc.
While the UK version was censored, the original US version wasn't. However, now all the digital versions sold today are censored. So basically, I think in order to play it safe with international audiences, Bethesda went with something like that UK cut of the game with the Steam and GOG versions. Except it's kinda weird, because Fallout 2 has children who die in story moments and that you can kill yourself, so why is only the first game censored? I'm not sure. But at the end of the
I also find it a little funny that, I mean, I think I know why. Because, as far as I know, in the first game, the kids aren't tied to, like, any other NPC. In Fallout 2, as we established, there's story moment. But in one of the towns, the kids are, like, the first point in, like, a pipeline of just black market shit. And they're fucking thieves.
day, you could just install a patch or mod to add all the censored stuff back in if you want, including Chris Avellone is a game designer and writer who has worked on the likes of Fallout 2, Interplay's Fallout 3, and New Vegas. His name makes some appearances in the games themselves, as a mercenary in Fallout 1 and a mayor in Fallout Tactics. He was also responsible for compiling the Fallout Bible, which contains tons of info and lore surrounding classic Fallout. Avellone has one hell of a resume under his belt, and is considered one of the greatest writers in gaming history.
Oh shit, he did Tyranny? New Vegas, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, Divinity, 2017 Prey, Did I Fall in Order, Pathfinder, Kingmaker, which aside from, you know, the quest related to the Kickstarter dude is good. EOE, KOTOR 2, makes sense, he was part of Obsidian.
I'd recommend watching his game conference talks, as well as checking out his blog, Fallout
Apocrypha.
It gives some interesting insights, including why horses might be extinct in the Fallout universe, and how Dogmeat is the continually reincarnating eternal champion of dog kind.
Which is sick.
Check it out. The classic Fallouts had an isometric perspective, and even when talking to NPCs in dialogue mode, that doesn't change. Unless you talk to one of the game's special NPCs, where rather than talking to a sprite, you would get...
Greetings. Your business in Shady Sands might be...
That really doesn't sound like him.
This is what the Interplay devs called talking heads, clay models that were sculpted, then digitized and animated. The process to make only one head was about 8 weeks, so plans to make 50 of them were understandably scrapped. The heads we do get have been called poorly aged or uncanny, but for me, there is a charm to them.
I like
the
them
same
personally.
way retro graphics can have a charm to many. the imperfection of the heads
I hate
makes
him,
them
though.
memorable. And in Fallout's case, I'd argue that
Granted, I also hate him as a character. He's a fucking egotistical sex pest, so. The joke in there about that being like a tenth of all content creators.
imperfection actually makes more sense here than in other older games. Here, we're not supposed to be looking at perfect, clean humans. We're looking at the rugged survivors of a wasteland. So the abstraction definitely helps remind us of this dark reality. Combined with their A-list voice talents, as well as how expressive they can be, reality. Combined with their A-list voice talents.
Wait, where is it? So, Aradesh is Tony Shalhoub, which is why I said just a moment ago that doesn't sound like him, because he also plays, obviously Adrian Monk from Monk, and also Jeeves from Men in Black. Both of which he uses a very similar voice for between those two. But he doesn't. Neither of those sound like Aradesh. Aradesh? Aradesh? I don't remember how to pronounce his name off the top of my head, but like I didn't know that that was him until this video. I might have actually known like at one point but forgot, but like I'm going to just play it safe and say that I just didn't know. Because as far as my memory serves, I didn't at all.
Talents, as well as how expressive they can be, the talking heads just work. Fallout Brotherhood of Steel killed Interplay Entertainment. So, the answer for this one is ultimately no. Interplay was never killed. It still exists, only as a shell of its former self, capitalizing on its remaining IPs. Rather than a tragic death, think a tragic fall from grace. As
Which
for
is
Fallout Brotherhood
arguably
of Steel,
more
causing
depressing.
its Brotherhood of Steel, or BOS, or POS as some call it, was definitely the last game Interplay released before the company was brought into bankruptcy court and forced to sell the Fallout IP in 2007. And with how the game was designed, it was clearly made hoping to appeal to a wider market, with the likes of Slipknot music, more sexualized characters, and a focus around action. Ultimately, though,
Very ironic that Interplay started leaning more towards sexualized characters for like their final Fallout game, and then it was given to Bethesda, who was like moving in the reverse direction. Because those that were around for us playing through all of Elder Scrolls know that Elder Scrolls Arena just outright had people that they were prostitutes and just, and I'm quoting, called themselves whores. As their introduction, which was very funny, but they literally just acted as blockers for like certain areas of the towns, sort of like the muggers. And then, you know, Daggerfall obviously just plain had naked ladies.
OS failed to sell well enough to rescue Interplay, but it's not solely to blame. Interplay was already
And then obviously
suffering
they
lower
stopped
sales,
doing so
poor
much
team morale,
for later
and
games.
apparently making
I
bad
should say.
financial decisions. So its fall was
So the point of it is that reverse order, Bethesda was becoming less like sexually charged with stuff, and then he just said that Brotherhood of Steel was very increasingly sexually charged. I got distracted because I freaking was reading something, reading a comment. That's the point, though.
basically guaranteed, no matter how good any Hail Mary game could have been. I will say though, it is funny to picture BOS being the killing blow, especially considering how universally hated it is amongst Fallout fans. The game is just not respected at all, and rather deservedly, it's seen as a final nail in the coffin than a true Fallout title.
Oh. Hello?
Reused assets are prevalent in Fallout 2 and New Vegas. In Fallout 2's case, there's a lot of textures and character models from the first game that appear again in the sequel. Even the player character gets the same exact Vault 13 jumpsuit model from Fallout 1, with no wear or tear to speak of. There is a narrative reason for getting the suit, but one could argue it's just a creative way of reusing old assets instead of making new ones. It's also a sign of Fallout 2's insanely short development time of basically 9 months. The devs just didn't have time to make a game completely filled with new assets, so asset reuse was basically a necessity. Then there was Fallout New Vegas, whose development studio Obsidian Entertainment only had 18 months of dev time to finish it, on a 3D engine the company hadn't used before. It's not really shocking that, to ease development,
To be fair, that's not even the... Okay, it's not even a to be fair for, like... But, this isn't even the only time it happened to Obsidian. Again, I will always bring this up whenever we're talking about this. Obsidian also did KOTOR 2. So they were given an engine that they had no experience with. To do a game and then got told, oh yeah, it's only got freaking this much time. Good luck.
New Vegas ended up using assets from Fallout 3. So at the end of the day, while it won't win the games any points for originality, it does make sense why the asset reuse is there. Floaters are one of the hideous creations of FEV, and served in the Master's army as a sort of war animal. They have an inflation sac under their mouths that allows them to float, hence the name floater. And they're a decent
Despite the
threat
fact that
against the
they
player.
do that, they still move by slithering, which is really weird.
But there is a lot more to them beyond being a late game enemy. For starters, the actual origin of the floaters remains a mystery. while the super mutants derive from FEV experimentation on humans, and the centaurs are a weird combo between a human, a dog, and a cat, the floaters are a bit harder to pinpoint. There's a theory that the floaters are the result of mutated flatworms, due to the worms being mentioned in records pertaining to FEV research, but there's no definitive connection between the two outside of appearances, and it's never been confirmed. Another fun fact around floaters is how they were made. Their creator is Jason D. Anderson, a former Interplay designer and artist who says he used a pornographic image to design their mouths. He called them sphincter monsters, and suddenly things check out. The floaters recently made an appearance in Fallout 76 as a variant species in Appalachia, West Virginia. However, they do look a lot different than their California counterparts. Maybe one day we'll get a new Fallout game where we get to see the original porn-inspired design in full 3D glory.
Okay, this is going to be a bit longer. I'm going to take this opportunity. Ad break's about to start. I'm going to take this opportunity to take my break because I'm going to respond to something.
The Chosen One is the name of the player character in Fallout 2, and them being the strongest in the game, never mind the series, is a solid claim. Keep in mind that Frank Horrigan, who is the strongest, deadliest enemy in the classic games, serves as Fallout 2's final encounter, and the Chosen One destroys him. Frank Horrigan, who punches a Deathclaw's head off, is reduced to this. No matter your personal ranking of the Fallout protagonists, needless to say, you don't want to mess with the Chosen One. TKS Mantis.
I didn't realize I muted myself. All I really said is that Frank Horrigan is probably the strongest outright enemy in any of the games, even to today. Liberty Prime is probably strongest overall, but not an enemy. I also said addict, by the way, because I pointed out that he was an addict in that, small snippet at the end.
Mantis is a Fallout YouTuber known for his Useless Facts series and coverage of the original games, including the one that kickstarted his love for the franchise, Fallout 2. I'd recommend giving his content a watch, as he has some good videos on the classic games and gives advice to newcomers looking to get into them. So, check him out. The idea of the classic Fallout games being remastered comes up time and time again, but nothing official has been confirmed, and Bethesda as a studio is on record as prioritizing original releases compared to endless remasters.
Unless it's Skyrim.
Unless the game's Skyrim. And unless your owner is now Microsoft. So, I don't know, maybe a remaster might be on the table sometime in the future for another anniversary. I would say it's very unlikely.
I don't think that it'll ever get remastered, and I'm not entirely sure if it should ever get remastered, to be honest. Simply because I don't have faith in Bethesda not changing far more than they really should.
Just sales and audience-wise. Also, while Bethesda does have the source code of the original games, it would take work to update code made for this. All that effort and resources spent for a non-mainstream game. I just don't see it happening. But say if the stars ever aligned and they got the right consultants to help with the project, I think it could be awesome. I think
it'd be cool, but I don't think it'd happen.
A remaster that fixes remaining bugs and spelling issues. Plus, Tim has this fantastic video on his channel detailing what he'd want to do with a remake if given the opportunity. Things like adding more reactivity, upping the quality of the assets which was sacrificed by early 3D technology.
I think that if you bring back the original team, at least like major players in it. You don't have to have the whole original team, because honestly, again, the game's nearly 30 years old. There's almost certainly members of the original team that are gone.
Just taking the game up to 11. That's the remake I'd want to play. And even if it doesn't happen, one can dream.
Spare change, old friend, old pal? Can you help a poor mutant down on his luck?
Harold is a fan favorite character in the series, known for his good nature and storytelling. He's also interesting in that while he's similar to ghouls in the franchise, being practically immortal, he isn't quite one of them. See, Harold was mutated because of exposure to the Forced Evolutionary Virus, or FEV, not radiation exposure like how the other ghouls were mutated. He does have a ghoul-like appearance, but unique to him, an unusual growth is forming on his head. It's a tree. Harold calls it Bob. Then Bob makes Harold become a tree. It's actually a pretty sad fate, and it oddly mirrors one of Harold's former companions, Richard Gray, who was mutated right alongside Harold. Only Gray became the Master, a horrific hive mind of amalgamated flesh that used his newfound mutation to forcibly mutate Wastelanders. He became worshipped by the children of the Cathedral, and used them as spies and healers to subvert mankind.
And people have had like theories and whatnot on this, but I do wonder what happened to the rest of that team.
Until his death. Meanwhile, centuries after the Master's passing, Harold becomes fully transformed because of Bob, and just really hates it. In fact, when a group of people start worshipping him, calling themselves the Tree Minders, he doesn't like that much either. All this guy wants to do is die, and yet there's this faction feuding over him, deciding whether they should accelerate his growth to plant trees throughout the wasteland, or whether it's safer to only have him serve as a small oasis. This is a development that occurs during Fallout 3, so it's not classic Fallout. However, it is a classic feeling quest with a lot of choices of a morally ambiguous nature.
I do kind of wonder what
the
like
original game
the
shot
canonical
for, according to its
answer would have
vision
been.
document. And no matter what choice is made, it caps off a story 3 games in the making, all around a fan favorite character from the originals. The New California Republic, or NCR, was founded at the end of Fallout 1. In that game, there's a small village called Shady Sands, which is struggling to really defend itself from mutant and raider attacks. Aradesh is the leader.
Also, I do like the nice little nods and whatnot that the NCR citizenship test like has you think back on all of the think back on the game games that came before in order to actually complete it, in order to know, you know, the stuff that happened in classic Fallout. I think that's kind of nice. It's because, you know, it's some original team members that did it, but, you know, whatever.
And his daughter Tandy gets kidnapped by the Khan's group of raiders halfway through the game. Assuming you save Tandy and that both of these characters are alive by the end of the playthrough, it's revealed that big things are in store for Shady Sands.
In Shady Sands, Tandy helps her father Aradesh bring a new community and new life out of the broken remains of the world. They are responsible for the New California Republic, whose ideals spread across the land.
Out of Shady Sands came the NCR, a post-war government emulating old world values of democracy and freedom. It's appeared multiple times throughout the series as a major faction in the Wasteland, and it's also become increasingly corrupted with each installment. In Fallout 2, conspiring against a nearby settlement called Vault City so that they assimilate with the NCR, and then turning into an expansionistic empire by New Vegas, dressing up conquest as democratization.
Stand by what
The
I said.
NCR's
The
current
only good
status is
part,
unknown after
regardless of regardless of what game, the only good part of the NCR is the Rangers. Because even in Fallout 2, the NCR themselves are assholes, and the Rangers are actually trying to fucking help.
Season 1 of the Fallout show, with its first capital, Shady Sands, now being a crater after a nuclear attack. But while we might not know what the NCR will become, we'll always know how it started. Bethesda...
I don't want to think that it was a middle finger from Bethesda to do that, but it really does come off as a bit dickish to be like, oh yeah, your idea as to how the NCR started? It's a crater.
saved Fallout.
Because I think that Shady Sands' location is...
this one's gonna tick people off. The fact is, Bethesda did acquire the Fallout IP from a...
Shady Sands' location is where the NCR is in Fallout 2. I think so.
failing interplay, and turned what was once a well-received computer RPG series into a household name. The Fallout franchise isn't at any risk of dying, and that is because of Bethesda. Their games are heavily marketed and know how to reel in large audiences by simplifying systems and catering to the masses. Fallout isn't a niche turn-based RPG anymore.
I do think I do wish that they'd chill with some of the streamlining. Because at the rate things are going, Fallout 5 is just going to flat out be a shooter where you occasionally talk to NPCs.
Anymore. It's a mainstream success. It'll live on forever now, but it will live at a cost. There's always a price with the kind of mass appeal you see in big franchises like this. For example, a lot of the darkness inherent to Fallout's post-apocalyptic hellscape got toned down in favor of pulpy, wacky wasteland fun. Even the original intent of the series, to explore the ethics of a post-nuclear wasteland, isn't nearly as solidly delivered now. The ethics
not make a better plasma gun
of a post-nuclear wasteland isn't nearly as solidly delivered now as it should be. It's the game that sold the
better
world.
Plasma game.
Quite literally. Now, to play devil's advocate, it's better to have something to complain about than nothing at all. The franchise is alive, and we did get Fallout New Vegas out of the deal, which is often considered to be the best in the whole franchise. Imagine if Bethesda didn't acquire the series. Would we have gotten another Fallout game at all?
Probably not.
Vegas? So many modders and artists have been drawn in because of that game alone. Not to mention, a lot of gamers now know the older games and show their respect to them
because if Interplay was dying at the time, Van Buren probably wasn't going to be finished. I do... Obviously, it's so many years back that I have no idea what actually transpired, but, like, if Interplay's still alive right now, the implication is that they might have been kept alive by Bethesda buying Fallout. So Fallout could have just flat out died with Brotherhood of Steel in that case, I guess, considering that was apparently the last one they did.
Of the new ones, because of Bethesda. So perhaps some sympathy for the devil is in order.
No.
Here. Okay.
Same, but a lot of folks at Bethesda hate New Vegas because people love it so much more than their own Fallout games. I'd be shocked if they put in the resources to do that.
Hey, actually, scratch that. Never mind.
This is the main reason I wanted to watch the
Sonora
video.
and Nevada are total conversion mods for Fallout 2. They were created by a small team of modders called Nevada Band Studio, led by a Siberian designer named Alexander, aka Black Designer. I won't get too into these mods because they're gonna get their own video one day, but to keep it short, these aren't just mods. These are entire new Fallout games, and just about the closest attempts at capturing the spirit of the originals there's been besides Fallout 1.5. They were made by fans for fans, designed around the original principles of the classic Fallouts, from multiple choices and quests to moral dilemmas in a dark wasteland setting. While I haven't finished these games yet, I am impressed by what I've played so far, and I'd recommend them to anyone looking for more old school Fallout or solid RPGs.
Which I do plan on actually playing these. I do want to play more classic Fallout effectively. 'Cause I really do enjoy a lot of the aspects of it, and some of the ramping up. I mean, for fuck's sake, my two biggest complaints about Fallout 4 are I don't give a shit about the story, and it's backward. You get given power armor, and you get given a laser weapon like 5 seconds in, and you get more laser weapons than you do 308 ammo or any other, like, bullets. Or you get more... Well, you do get more laser weapons than you do, because buying bullets was such a pain. To the point where I downloaded a mod to allow me to make bullets. And the overpowered weapons that I freaking had required bullets because they're, despite being energy weapons in their canon, because that's the only way you could balance them. If you make them take energy cells, then it doesn't fucking matter because you just get 10,000 energy cells for talking.
I also wanted to give a shout out to one of the designers on Fallout Sonora, Alexander Berzin, or Red 888 Guns, an artist who's been making I'm not even lying here, some of the best fan art for the classic games. It's been featured already in this video, and it's awesome. In fact, Alexander is working right now with New Blood Interactive on a Fallout-inspired project of theirs, set in a retro-futuristic pre-war setting. Really looking forward to that. Along with Black Designer's future RPG project.
What is this even called?
Fallout-inspired project.
Let me see here. Do we even have a name for it yet? 9 months ago. A few comments. New Blood Interactive. Let's see if they have anything on their actual website. Oh, that's just going to take me to the Steam store, which is not helpful. I forgot that New Blood made, fucking... Yeah, we're not getting any information. Their website is not terribly helpful. But I forgot that they made Faith. I'm gonna move this over here because I'm gonna watch it off stream, but...
Project of theirs. Set
But
in
we
a
will do
retro-futuristic
Sonora, at some point. I need to... I forget if it's Sonora or if it's Nevada. Whichever one's translated. Because I think only one of them's translated, but I do want to play those in the near future. I'm in a bit of a state similar to most other things where I don't want to do it only to move computers.
or setting. Really looking forward to that, along with Black Designer's future RPG project now that he's done with Sonora's development. This guy's going commercial, and I'd love to support him with my money. So keep an eye out for sure, because this guy delivers the goods. Gore's practically a trademark of the Fallout franchise. It's featured in the marketing, and no surprise, it wound up in the Fallout TV show. Even the vision document, detailing the pillars of the first game's design, made its first point specifically about Fallout's mega-violence. When people die, they don't just die. They get cut in half, they melt into a pile of goo, explode like a blood sausage, or several different ways, depending on the weapon you use.
That's insanity.
When I use my rocket launcher on some poor, defenseless townsperson, he'll know, and his neighbors will be cleaning up the blood for weeks. This is the wasteland. Life is cheap, and violence is all that there is. Again, gore is a staple of the series at this point, but there is reason to place it in the classic Fallout list. That's because the new gore is a whole different beast compared to the old stuff.
Yeah.
And I know how that sounds, so hear me out. The new games are...
I understand where he's coming from, and he's going to explain it here in a moment, but like... There's a difference between man's head explodes and then the rest of his body ragdolls backward and a handcrafted animation as someone's torso gets sent to the back of the room and then they slump over, missing like a quarter of their entire body. In fairness, though, because I'm not going to just bash on, you know, how it works now blindly. God, A, would that be a pain to freaking do for modern Bethesda? Modern Fallout? And B, I've seen some games that do that with a 3D thing. A big one being... Fire Warrior. And a lot of games don't allow you to mess with NPCs and whatnot while they're in animations, so whether they were to drop stuff or whether they were to be searchable, you're just waiting for them to go through their animation. You're not turn-based anymore, so it doesn't really, like, you know, hold you there for it or anything. You're rushing up to them while they're doing this and freaking having to spam click until they turn into the state where you can actually mess with them.
3D and have a lot more.
And that probably just adds to another. That would just add to another bit of bugginess in Bethesda stuff, to be honest.
Detail. Eyes and limbs go flying. Heck, you can even carry them around like the inhumane savage you are. But at the end of the day, it's kinda just cool.
Thank you, Sari.
There's no weight to exploding people or blasting bodies apart. At most, it's like your bullets are making surgical slices or popping a balloon. Meanwhile, gore in the original games, despite the limited death animations, is memorable in a twisted way. You're not just exploding people, you're splintering them. You rend them apart. It's crunchy and horrific, and a hell of a reason why the older Fallout games are considered dark games.
Love that. The Overseer's death still has so much personality to it, though.
Cut from Fallout 1, the Vipers were planned to be a joinable raider group, much like the Khans. They even share a similar origin, also being inhabitants of Vault 15 who fled into the wasteland and were changed by it for the worst. Except, whereas the Khans are your typical thieving, killing raiders, the Vipers were a zealous cult of snake worshippers. Driven mad by the venom of mutant vipers, this crazy faction lived next to a pit of the creatures, worshipping them as gods and sacrificing travelers to them. This would have also included the player. If they managed to somehow survive the pit, they would be offered the chance of becoming an honorary member of the Vipers by performing one more task for them. You'd think slaying their gods would be enough, but I guess they have high standards. There's a ton of lore that was written for these guys, including monthly coma rituals and how they were founded, but none of it is in Fallout 1. Then the Vipers got to appear in New Vegas, but as this shell of their former self.
Yeah.
They're just generic raider bad guys who use guns. Nothing about them wearing bone armor or being proficient in stealth, using paralytics to stun their enemies and gather them as sacrifices. I guess there is a lore reason for their current state, but it's still sad we never got a taste of the classic Vipers.
I just thought that they, like, used poison, because all I ever heard was the single story of, one of the Maxims, who took his helmet off and then got grazed by a Viper arrow and died because of the poison in it. I didn't know about, like, all the rituals and all the freaking snake gods and everything until a video that I watched, like, 2 weeks ago?
The games is too difficult. This is a reference to criticism often leveled towards the older games that they're way too hard. Attacks miss too much. Rats can kill you in the first 5 minutes. Ants can kill you in the first 5 minutes. The game is hard and therefore bad, hence negative Steam review. In all seriousness though, the games do have a bit of a learning curve, especially for audiences used to the newer titles. I was even surprised that I got into the older games like I did, but it probably comes down to the fact that growing up, I played a bunch of puzzle games like I Spy. I was used to randomly clicking around a screen to progress. I lucked out. plenty of people haven't, and it's going to be harder going from an action-based FPS to a slower, zoomed-out RPG. Make no mistake, the original games are not Bethesda Fallout. The original games are
the Fallout 1 mod next week. You know, actually, I think that I've talked about everything I wanted to. I was kind of hoping that, I would have gotten a message or something by now. Oh, some of these aren't actually... No, then it goes to the Abyss. The core? What? There's a big gap here.
classic Fallout, and it will beat you to your knees if you let it. There are good resources for playing these games, and probably many more that I'm not listing right now. But I wanted to throw my own hat in the ring to help people out.
I am gonna...
better than others.
Skip this portion.
Number 3. He actually does make you the chosen one. Counters. It's in town, level yourself up, save sometimes during your travels. Number 4.
This is still freaking...
They originally were. Yes. Use your head. And that's all I'm gonna offer. But it should be enough to know that while the games are hard, they're not impossible. If 90s kids could play them, Pip-Boy are different characters.
Okay. So now we're about where I was when I freaking went to sleep this morning. I'll at least finish up this level. I'm not entirely sure if I'll be going for much longer, though. I do want to get some, like, proper food.
Volt-Boy and Pip-Boy are different characters, or at least they originally were. Volt-Boy is the mascot of Voltec, and also appears in the wearable computer called Pip-Boy, as seen in various perks and UI elements. Pip-Boys were standard equipment in Volts, and this connection has led Volt-Boy to be called Pip-Boy sometimes. However, this isn't supposed to be correct. See, Robco were the creators of Pip-Boy, and gave it an original mascot that isn't Volt-Boy and wasn't designed by Voltec. It's lesser known about because it only appeared briefly in the classic games on the Pip-Boy 2000 series, until much recently with Fallout 76 in the Fallout show. It also probably didn't help that the poor dude was blocked by the countdown timer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Fallout
that.
1 for half the game. See, right there. That is Pip-Boy. And yet, a lot of people don't know about him. They just use Volt-Boy and Pip-Boy interchangeably. Even when you specifically look up Pip-Boy mascot, you'll get Volt-Boy pop up as your first result, because they're just so well associated now. And to make matters worse, Bethesda put the final nail in the coffin by renaming Pip-Boy into Volt-Boy 2000 in Fallout 76. So, while I really wish I could say this entry helps clear the confusion surrounding a tiny piece of classic Fallout lore, Bethesda retconned that chance away. Volt-Boy and Pip-Boy were once meant to be two different characters, but now they're officially merged as one.
Gross.
Fallout Tactics launched with multiplayer and a number of game modes, including Capture the Flag, Skirmish mode, a scavenger hunt mode where players had to collect more items than the rival team to win, and a mode called Assault.
Fallout Tactics Brother to Steel is the first Fallout game to have multiplayer. Yes. You can play as dogs. You can just have your entire team be dogs.
Assault, where teams try to destroy each other's bases. You won't be able to play Tactics multiplayer through normal means, since the servers have been shut down. But YouTuber Triangle City does have a video on how to set it up, which is playing in the background right now. Give it a watch if you've ever thought what classic Fallout needed was a deathmatch mode. Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game, is the full title for the first Fallout game, but that almost wasn't the case. Fallout did go through a lot of name ideas, including After the Bomb and Hiroshima.
Hey, how do you get your game banned from Japan in one word? Or two words, but still.
However, the name that seems to have gotten the most traction before Fallout, the one we see the most early artwork for, is Vault 13.
A GURPS? Ugh.
I think the implication of this entry is that in a
Ew! I can't hate GURPS as much now. I can still hate GURPS. Fuck GURPS, but still. Hold up, I gotta freaking... send that to both Tepper and Mark.
another timeline, the first game in the series would have been called Vault 13, a post-nuclear role-playing game. That still works, honestly, but as Tim Kaines pointed out, it had been hard to make sequels for, and Fallout just hits a lot harder.
Gecko in a can.
Gecko in a Can was promotional merchandise made for Fallout 2, and according to what I found off the No Mutants Allowed forum, was handed out at the Fallout 2 release party as part of the gift bags people got. It's a can with a plush gecko inside.
That's cute.
Pretty cute, and a lot nicer than the geckos we do get throughout the series. The Cut Submarine is a cut location from Fallout 2. Also
Came
known
from...
as the Cut Submarine is a
from Killapp's Fallout 2 Restoration Project mod.
cut location from Fallout 2. Also known as the It belonged to the Shi, the descendants of a pre-war Chinese submarine crew who made a home for themselves in the post-war ruins of San Francisco. Originally, the player would need to deactivate its automated defense system in order to drive a tanker past it and reach the Enclave's oil rig. It was meant to be yet another step in the main quest, and would have just padded the game's runtime.
Yeah. I don't think that the game really needed that much padding, especially at the end of the game.
It does make sense why it got cut. Death messages were featured in the original Fallouts, where upon dying, you'd get to hear Ron Perlman tell you about it.
The darkness of the afterlife is all that awaits you now. May you find more peace in that world than you found in this one.
Each message had a percentage chance of happening, and this was taken further into Fallout 2. Whereas most of the messages are really grim, Fallout 2 includes a number of messages that are basically just silly jokes, having a 1% chance of happening. Take a listen.
You're dead. Again. Boy, are you stupid. And dead. Time to reload. Hope you saved your game. 'Cause you're dead. Here's a picture.
I'm gonna be honest. If that happened after a death that I thought was like cheap or something, I might have been more pissed about that or something. I might have needed a break for the night. It's a 1% chance
Of your
though, so...
corpse. Not pretty.
Valerie, also known as Vic's daughter, is a character who appears in Fallout 2, and is part of a unique encounter that can occur if you have Vic in your party. Take him to Vault City, enter the maintenance center, and suddenly there's this kind of cutscene that happens where the two characters are talking to each other, and so is the player character. I'm not the biggest fan of this, even though I really like the idea of the encounter. More stuff like this could be really cool, bringing a companion along and running into a character that they happen to know, triggering dialogue or combat, and we kind of get a prototype for that here. It's just the execution is really weird. The game suddenly pauses for this moment where you have no input over what you say. In an RPG where that's kind of the point. It could have been something that happens in the dialogue window, where maybe we get to interject and roleplay, but instead, the roleplaying is done for us.
Yeah.
It's unusual, and Vic's daughter causes it. The NCR hires raiders.
We already established this.
Kind of. More like hiring people to hire raiders to do dirty work for the NCR. See? Much better. In Fallout 2, the NCR is expanding their empire. They've got sights set on Vault City. It's a technologically advanced and democratic community, so it'd be perfect territory for the NCR. But Vault City is highly isolationist, which poses some problems. Rather than outright conquering the city, the NCR opts for more cunning means to make the city their own. For one, they have an NCR undercover agent named Thomas More, who passes Vault City's citizenship test and works to weaken their border policies. That would be bad enough, until you learn that the same spy is responsible for cutting a deal with Mr. Bishop, head of the Bishop crime family in New Reno. In exchange for the promise of power in a NCR-controlled New Reno, Bishop hires Wastelanders to stage attacks against the Vault City community. This
I don't know if I ever, actually ran into this,
leaves Vault City afraid of raids and attacks, even potentially weakened with the death of innocent security forces, causing a problem which a stronger, more militarized faction like the NCR can offer the help with. Basically, the NCR sells a solution to a problem they caused.
We talked about that yesterday, actually. Copy and paste from yesterday to today. About YouTube and whatnot.
It's a dark piece of lore that I'm surprised more people aren't familiar with. Most people turn to New Vegas as proof of the NCR's corruption, but pay close attention, and you can see the seeds as early as Fallout 2.
Which is kind of neat. Okay. Yeah, 3 hours more, which translated into stream time is 6 hours more. I think I'll call it. I did my yapping at the beginning of stream, and I had a good time. I think I'm gonna go raidless tonight. Let me swap over to this. But I am hungry, and I would like to end before ad breaks so you guys don't just get crammed into an ad break right before ending. Tomorrow's break day. You guys know the drill on that. I'll be editing and taking care of some short form and long form content. And I actually had a much better time with this. Interestingly enough, I had a much better time with this than I did the entire video regarding fucking Harvester. And this is literally just a fucking iceberg, so... I'm probably not going to continue watching this on stream. I'll probably just, you know, chill with it off stream. It's good for background noise. That being said, I will... post the actual video in both the chats so that you guys can watch it on your own time if you want. Speaking of things that are going into both chats, there's the socials. You can join the Discord, follow me on Blue Sky, or follow me on Twitter, and I keep it in things such as when I go live, what I'm going live with, and art like you see in the corner, and I will probably be working on as part of tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'll do Monday. Kind of wing it. May play something small, may... I don't know if I'll yap. I did entirely yapping this week. Maybe we do some art, because I think that it's Boysen's birthday, actually, on Monday. Yes. And then Tuesday we'll do some twos. I don't know if we will watch Little Reimu or I'll start Reimu's Awesome Holiday. But regardless of what happens, I look forward to that. Little Reimu is... not that. It's like 3 hours long, I think. Or is it 2 hours long? It's 2 hours long. It's not bad. That being said, that's gonna be free tonight. If you want to keep up to date on things such, like, if you want to keep up to date on things such as what I'm going... I keep freaking... I'm so used to that being, like, the follow-up for that phrase. But if you want to keep up to date on things, you know, whatever I wind up doing on Monday, then yeah, those socials are there. I think that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for the follows, rates, all that good jazz. And I will see you guys on Monday. Because I streamed today, meaning that I'm not going to stream on Sunday and keep to my schedule. Love you all. Bye.